Hello again, my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. With a lot of happiness and excitement, I am going to inform you, as you can read in the title, that Izuku Midoriya's disastrous guide to living a double life is back with another chapter. It's been a while, but the author was finally able to update it, and I am so happy and excited to see what Karma is going to do next time, or this time at least. So grab yourself something to drink, grab a snack, sit back, and relax as we head into the video. Izuku Midoriya's Disastrous Guide to Living a Double Life. Written by Leahistyping on AO3. Chapter 4. A sneak attack? Now you're speaking my language. Stain, buddy, hey. Karma said slowly, his hands paced outwards in front of him, almost as if he was trying to stop a hostage situation from occurring. Honestly, given the circumstances, he basically was. This wasn't something he or Eraserhead had fully trained him for. I thought you didn't hurt kids, so why is there a UA student lying on the ground? Karma asked, dread and worry filtering through his voice. He didn't know why he was so surprised at this, considering that their first interaction easily could have ended with his life being taken, but he supposed a small amount of mentorship must have lured him into a false sense of security. I also said that I dealt with anyone who got in my way, which just so happens to be this kid. Stain replied, using his knife to point to where Ida was lying helplessly on the ground. He's another false hero, just like his brother. Instead of trying to save Native, he immediately began to attack me in the name of revenge for his brother. Heroes are supposed to be selfless like All Might. I'll take them both out to cleanse society. As Stain continued to rant, Karma attempted to run through as many possible situations as possible. Could he talk him out of killing them? Definitely not. He'd end up a stain on the pavement just like the other two. But could he seriously fight? He's taken down a hero course student and a pro hero for God's sake. So it wasn't completely out of the cards. He could also call for backup, and it's not like Eraserhead would get here in time. He was on his own with this. At least that's what he thought until he saw Ida lying on the ground a couple feet away from Stain. If he could get him far enough away, he could call for backup using Ida's phone and dip once the pros arrive at the scene. Surely Ida would have someone in his contacts that would be able to save them. Taking Stain's rant as his opening, Karma ran towards Ida and dragged him across the alleyway and quickly patted him down. What the hell are you doing? Do you want to die? If you leave now, I'll let you live, as this does not involve you. Stain asked, frustrated with Karma's lack of cooperation. You must have forgotten what I've told you too, Karma said as he finally found Ida's phone and threw it next to the hero course student, hoping he'd get the message. I do this to help the people who have been missed by the pros. If you think I'll just stand here and let you kill them, then you're out of your mind. Karma had always known he was passionate about the topic, given he was actively practicing vigilantism, but even he was slightly surprised by the amount of emotion that was flowing through his shaky voice. Right as he finished his own declaration, Ida coughed, signaling he had the smallest bit of movement back in his fingers that allowed him to access his food. His phone. Or maybe Face ID? He wasn't going to question it. Karma looked over to see his phone unlocked, giving him everything he needed to find help. Should have known you wouldn't back down. Guess we'll have to settle this then. Stain replied, unfazed by Karma's threat. Although Stain's gaze was focused on Karma's, he had yet to begin his attack. Could he be gauging his strength or simply deciding the best way to dispose of him? Karma slightly turned around and began to pat Ida down, hoping Stain would assume he was looking for a weapon and give him the time to come up with a plan. He was a ruthless killer, but he seemed hesitant for some reason. While he patted Ida down, he simultaneously scrolled through the hero student's contacts, allowing the side of his body to cover the phone from Stain's eyesight in an attempt to find anyone who could help. He wasn't sure who exactly was in the area, so he figured sending their location out to as many people as he recognized as possible was the most logical solution. Who are you? Ida muttered weakly below him, likely highly confused about Karma's random appearance. The name's Karma, he said confidently, hoping to ease the fear Ida was likely harboring. I just called for backup, but I can't let him kill Native, so sit tight here while I deal with this, okay? Wait, you can't! Ida replied quietly, his eyes shaking with fear and anger. This has nothing to do with you. You can still run away and save yourself. You don't need to be involved, and you don't know anything about his quirk. His voice was louder now, and even Stain was watching intently, almost like he was waiting to see what Karma's response was going to be. Karma felt uneasy. Stain was so unpredictable, and he had no idea when he was actually going to strike. Ida still seemed to be in a bit of a haze from any head injuries he might have received from his brawl with Stain, but he'd probably have a clearer head in a few minutes. Still, the comment irked something inside of Karma. Who was he to say when he should be involved? And he really hated he had to repeat himself. So, I should just sit here, watch Native die, and then join you two? Karma asked, annoyance flickering through his tone. Just because I don't know you or Native doesn't mean I shouldn't try to help if you're in need. Isn't that what being a hero is? Involving yourself when you don't have to? Both Ida and Stain looked taken aback by Karma's outburst, and the vigilante could feel himself flush with embarrassment. Ignoring the 3 sets of eyes on him, Karma added, Backup will be here soon, so be ready to fight if I need a hand once you're able to move, as he readied himself for the fight of his life. Oh, and I already know the rough basics of his quirk. Paralysis seems to be the primary aspect of it, Karma said as he watched Ida's face morph into surprise. Blood! Ida coughed, throwing Karma off guard. Blood? Sensing his confusion, Ida elaborated. I'm not sure how it works exactly, but I was only paralyzed after he cut me with his blades. Shit! A fight with Stain with absolutely no room for getting hit? It would be beyond difficult to get close enough to throw his knife containing Viridian Lock, but if he could simply create a distraction... Karma steadily approached Stain, who was a little too close to Native for Karma's liking, and unsheathed one of his disposable knives. If he could get Stain's eyes off for even a couple of seconds, he could hide his presence and disappear, which would give him the opportunity to get at least one surprise hit on Stain. Taking a deep breath, Karma launched the knife straight at Stain's head. If he opened with a brazen attack that would require an obvious dodge, then he could use the couple seconds where Stain wasn't focused on him to scale the walls. For extra measure, he threw another small knife in hopes that 2 would increase the chances of Stain actually removing his gaze off of Karma. Now, maybe it was pure luck, or maybe Stain just underestimated the vigilante, but right as the knives were about to make contact with the hero killer's face, he dodged to the side, giving Karma the perfect opportunity to slip into the shadows. He scaled the wall silently, and by the time Stain looked back, he was just getting to the top of the building that framed the alleyway. Stain scoffed, clearly annoyed with the vigilante's impromptu game of hide-and-seek. He looked between Native and Iida in an attempt to see their reaction would give away his location. After seeming to get nothing from the blank stares he was being given, Stain called out, "What happened to fighting me, kid?" His tone was mocking and laced with disappointment. "Don't tell me I was wrong about you. Show yourself unless you ran away. It would be the wisest decision to make. You may be reckless, but you aren't stupid." His gaze was sharp as he scanned the surrounding area, attempting to pick out where Karma was hiding. In an effort to get Karma to show himself, Stain moved towards Native, and again lifted him up to a wall by his throat. Native choked due to the pressure, and Karma cringed, realizing he didn't have much time. Surely Stain was doing this to draw him out? Ignoring his taunts, Karma quietly made his way across the building's rooftop, hoping that hiding his presence would be enough to keep Stain from looking in his direction. Once he was in position, he removed another knife from his hidden pocket on the left side of his thigh. If he could use a regular one and take him by surprise, he might be able to get the jump on Stain and finish him with Viridian Lock. Then he'd just have to stall and wait for it to kick in. Mentally concluding his plan, Karma aimed his knife and threw it towards Stain, directing it at his hands in hopes of loosening the grip on Native. His shot landed flawlessly, and Native fell to the ground, gasping as air refilled his lungs. Stain looked up to where Karma was standing by, following the direction of the throw, and immediately pulled out one of his knives. Sensing Stain's bloodlust, Karma used the fire escape to slide back down into the alleyway and readied his next knife. There was no way he could beat him with just his fists, and it was honestly a long shot he'd last long enough before backup came. All he could do was keep trying. He ran at Stain with one of his basic knives, his right hand hovering near the sheath for Viridian Lock, ready to pull it out when he had an opening. A dance-like battle emerged between the two, and Karma was surprised at how fast he had gotten. Regardless of his newfound speed, Karma couldn't stop all of the blows that came his way, and he knew for a fact that he'd be feeling it for the next week at minimum. Fortunately, none of the hits were critical, and he was able to avoid the attacks that aimed to draw serious blood, though he couldn't deny that it was only a matter of time before he messed up and Stain would be victorious. He didn't have much time left. During their previous interaction, Karma had gotten to witness Stain's immense speed firsthand, which convinced him that he was currently holding back against him. Although it gave him a better chance at landing a shot, Karma still hated feeling like he needed handouts to perform well. Or maybe Stain was just underestimating him? He couldn't tell for sure. Now, Karma wouldn't admit this to many people, especially not a Razor, but the thrill that came with fighting Stain was something he shamefully enjoyed. Karma had never felt so alive, and he reveled in the every quick dodge he was able to do against the more experienced vigilante. Unfortunately, Karma didn't pick up on a feint that Stain threw his way, and the next thing he knew, he felt a slash across his left arm. It was only a small slice due to his multiple layers, but it was all Stain needed to temporarily paralyze Karma. All he could do was watch as Stain licked his blood off the blade, and he felt the familiar sensation of being paralyzed set in. Dread filled Karma's stomach as the situation finally settled in. He was going to die here, and it would probably be days before anyone even cared enough to realize. Stain looked down at him as he stood victorious, a look of pity shining through his masked eyes. "I told you to leave when you had the opportunity," he grumbled, unamused. Before he could turn away, he noticed the sheath on Karma's right side, the one containing Viridian Lock. Karma felt sick as he watched the vigilante approach and take it off his limp body, unable to do anything but watch as he studied his latest addition. Stain brought it to his ear and swished it around in an impressed look washed over his features momentarily. "Some kind of potion, huh?" Stain asked curiously. A combination of fear and shock stopped the vigilante from responding before Stain added, "Seems like you're taking a page out of my book." Bile and iron were all Karma could taste as he watched horrified at the inevitable doom he was sure to follow after the hero killer's inspection. He was stupid to think any other outcome would have been possible. "It's unfortunate that you've never got to use them," he added as he tossed it down the alleyway, far out of Karma's reach. "Now, stay still, and I still might let you live. I wasn't lying when I said you have true heroic qualities." Wait, what? Before Karma had time to think about that sentence any further, a wall of ice emerged down the center of the alleyway, and Karma had to stop himself from crying out in relief that backup had finally arrived. "Hida, are you all right? I came as soon as I got your message, though it was quite cryptic." Todoroki called as he attempted to take in the scene before him. Karma watched as confusion littered his features when he caught sight of him, likely not expecting for another person besides Ida and Native to be there. "Another one?" Stain asked, clearly getting annoyed with the predicament that he found himself in. "You're the hero killer, Stain, aren't you?" Todoroki stated as he readied himself for another round of ice. "His quirk!" Karma called out, surprising both Stain and Todoroki. "He paralyzes you when he ingests your blood. I'm not sure about the factors yet, but it lasts roughly 4 minutes for me, so be on guard." He was still lying on his back, and he felt utterly useless for not being able to help, but at least he was able to pass on some information for Todoroki. "Thank you, Todoroki said, unsure what to refer to the vigilante as. Karma chuckled lightheartedly and replied, "Karma!" "Karma?" Todoroki asked, confused, though the vigilante then missed a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. "Aren't you usually in the Musutafu area?" "That was not the time for this sort of conversation," Karma thought as he watched Stain prepare his next attack. But he couldn't help but grin at Todoroki's knowledge about his typical whereabouts. "Yeah, but I was looking for a change of scenery," Karma choked, and he was relieved to feel the tips of his fingers and toes return to normal. He was grateful that Stain took so much time analyzing his new weapon. Todoroki only nodded in response as he shot another wave of ice at Stain's directions. The vigilante dodged expertly and attempted to throw a knife in Todoroki's direction. Karma watched as the hero student narrowly dodged the attack and put up another wall of ice. Seconds seemed to pass by in slow motion, and Karma was aching for the effects of Stain's quirk to wear off already. He watched carefully as Stain slowly made his way over to Todoroki, each knife getting closer and closer to making contact. Todoroki was starting to panic now, which resulted in weaker lines of ice being launched in Stain's direction. Right as Stain was a couple of feet away from Todoroki, Karma felt his muscles release, and he was able to stand back up shakily. He silently got up, albeit with a struggle, and made his way over to Stain, each limb more difficult than the last, making sure to hide his presence as he got closer. Although Stain had tossed Viridian Lock away, Karma still had one other option. Finally, Karma saw an opening after Stain threw another knife at Todoroki, and he launched himself at him. He jumped onto his back, effectively throwing the hero killer off guard. During Stain's attempt to throw him off, Karma aimed his knife covered in Midnight's eclipse right into Stain's biceps, easily slicing through his sleeve and into his skin. Stain howled at the surprise attack and took a jump backwards, effectively shaking Karma off in an attempt to create some distance between the two of them. Having a second to recollect, Stain said, "I'll take more. It'll take more than that to stop me. I fought with injuries worse than this." Although he seemed confident in his ability to continue fighting, Karma knew he was still pretty pissed about his attack. "Todoroki!" Karma called, looking behind him. "He has less than a minute left before he's done. Try to stay unscathed before then, okay?" Stain's face morphed into confusion, and he looked back at the cut Karma had left. A strong sense of pride washed over the vigilante at the realization that this may actually go in his favor. "What? You thought I'd only keep one container on me?" Karma asked confidently. "You're about to be hit with my very own creation called Midnight Eclipse. I actually came here tonight to show you what I've been working on. But now I guess you're getting first-hand experience." He knew it was a bit early to gloat, but he couldn't stop the pride that was oozing out of his body. "You got me, kid." Stain smirked, resignation covering his features. "Though, I am not going to sit down and wait for whatever this is to kick in." Without hesitation, Stain grabbed another knife from a hidden pocket and aimed it at Native, who up to this point had just been watching all this play out with pure astonishment. Stain threw the knife, and Karma watched as it sailed towards Native. Fortunately, his concoction kicked in quickly and the knife landed just above Native's head, the dizziness likely throwing him off balance right as he threw the blade. Sighing with relief, Karma ran over and handcuffed Stain with zip ties. "Listen, beggars couldn't be choosers," removing the rest of his weapons that were hidden among his suit. Todoroki started helping Ida and Native, who had just been watching the battle play out. Once Stain was settled, Karma collected the remaining knives that were littered across the alleyway and returned them to all their proper places. When everything was put away, he dragged Stain over to the edge of the alleyway and waited for the three heroes to come take over. Ida and Native, though in rough shape, were still alive and were able to safely make it over to where Karma was standing. The vigilante who was leaning against the wall watched as they approached, a sudden pit in his stomach growing at the idea of talking to multiple pros or heroes in training. You saved us back there. I am incredibly grateful," Ida said, coughing lightly. His face was covered in dried blood and one of his glasses lenses was broken, but he at least seemed to be all right. "Me as well," Native added gratefully. "I shouldn't have had to rely on some kids to save me, though." "It's no big deal," Karma said coolly, crossing his arms over his chest. "I was in the area anyway, and I'm just glad I could help." "I'm sorry I wasn't a better hero. My job is supposed to protect people, and I strayed from that path today." Ida said sadly, embarrassment littering his features.
Hey, he was a difficult guy to fight. I can't even blame you. The only reason we got him was because I was able to land a shot on him. Karma reasoned, attempting to make Ida feel better. Ida had a lot of hero potential. He clearly just needed to sort some things out first. Your quirk is incredible, and it's obvious how much you care about the people around you. Karma continued. Just don't be afraid to reach out for help when you need it, you know? You can only be the best hero you can be when you're taking proper care of yourself. Karma watched as Ida's face softened, and he knew that his words were helping, even if it was just a little bit. He couldn't help but think how much of a hypocrite he was, though. Say, Karma, Todoroki stated, interrupting the moment. How did you know my name? I don't recall telling you that. Karma stiffened at the slip-up. He had completely forgotten that he called out Todoroki. Oh, you guys are from UA, right? I saw you at the sports festival. Karma said, mentally applauding himself for the quick save. That makes sense. Todoroki concluded, nodding his head. It is nice to meet you. I've heard about you on the news and a few forums a couple of times. Even though Karma had known this when he talked to Todoroki at the sports festival, he was still taken off guard that people were actually taking notice of his efforts. It's nice to meet you too, Karma replied cheerfully as he shook Todoroki's outstretched hand. I got a dip now, though. I need to be gone before the cops show up. He laughed lightheartedly. You can take credit if you want, or mention me. It really doesn't matter. And before any of them could respond or object, Karma was gone. It was time he headed back home and start his actual patrol for the night after he checked the damage on his arm. The capture of Stain was all over the news, though Izuku was surprised that Endeavor of all the people got credit for his takedown. It wasn't anything special, just footage of him being loaded into a prison van unconscious. He was sort of glad it ended up not being a big deal. The last thing he wanted was for Eraser to chew him out for fighting someone as dangerous as Stain without much backup. Fortunately, the damage to his arm wasn't too critical, so the following few weeks consisted of the same few things: additional training, working with Hatsume, and studying for exams. Although he wasn't in the heroics course, there were still general exams he had to take. So he and Shinso had been spending an incredible amount of time in some local cafe studying English and different mathematical equations. During one of their study sessions, Izuku had accidentally let it drop that he was attending the Hero Course summer camp, and he couldn't help but feel bad when he saw Shinso's slightly envious expression. I can't believe you were invited to go. And Shinso groaned as he continued writing down notes about English grammar. I'm surprised too, Izuku replied as he jotted down material in his notebook, but I'm mostly just going to give an input about developing their quirks and attacks. I guess a few of them blabbed about my notebook. Although it wasn't entirely true, it wasn't wrong either. Izuku was confronted by some of the teachers regarding his notes on various students, and many of them thought he'd be a good addition to help further their skills. So of course he wasn't going to turn down an opportunity to train and analyze powerful quirks. Embarrassing as it was, Izuku knew his eyes were shining with happiness at the knowledge that some of the Hero Course students and teachers actually liked his notes. In middle school, he was called every name in the book for his detailed analysis, so it was refreshing to see people genuinely enjoying his passions. Pfft, it was probably Monoma. Shinso smirked, knowing the types of antics the blonde was usually up to. Izuku laughed. I wouldn't be surprised. He was probably raving about how well I analyzed Class B. It'll be nice to see him again, though it's been a while since I've been so focused on training and school. Shinso groaned at the reference to his most strenuous activities. Don't even get me started. I don't know how I'm still alive after the new routine you put me on. He took a sip of his coffee, attempting to hide the exhaustion seeping through his pores. You secretly love it, I know it. Izuku teased lightly, but you'll get used to it eventually, I promise. Izuku rolled his eyes playfully as he finished another section of notes. Speaking of, Shinso began, I noticed you and Hatsume have been hanging out more too. Not replacing me, are you? He choked. Of course not, Shinso. Izuku scoffed. Hatsume and I have just been working on a lot of new projects lately. It's so refreshing to get a second opinion rather than just winging it myself, you know. For sure. Shinso replied, a small smile tugging at his lips. Now, about this equation. Hey, Midoriya! Hatsume called as Izuku walked into her lab. Back so soon? She continued to work on one of her babies for one of the hero course students as Izuku approached. He found it amusing how she always was doing something, even when she was having a conversation with others. As he approached her desk, a few of the other support students greeted him, which he politely reciprocated. You're getting pretty famous around here, Hatsume teased as she lifted her goggles from her eyes. I don't know why you don't just transfer over at this point. Shinso would miss me too much, Izuku choked, rubbing the back of his neck. Plus, this is more of a side thing for me, and I like having the freedom to do whatever. Fair enough, Hatsume agreed, patting the seat next to her. What can I do for you? Got another idea, or are you just checking in with our progress for some of the random gadgets still in the works? Izuku took a seat and promptly pulled out his notebook, flipping to a page with his most recent design. This one is more on the down low, if you catch me, Izuku said lowly, and he watched as Hatsume's eyes gleamed with excitement. Logically, Izuku knew it wasn't the smartest idea to discuss super-secret plans in the classroom, but given that almost all of the support course students were lost in their own tinkering, he doubted any of them were listening to their quiet scheming. Plus, his and Hatsume's schedules were so chaotic in their own rights, so most of their discussions and brainstorming often happened when they were both already on campus. Their current system wasn't too bad. If Izuku said so, he'd come to her with designs and prototypes and she'd fix it up with better tech or spend some of her free time testing it out. Power Loader really only got involved if she was blowing stuff up or wasn't keeping up with her in-class inventions. So he figured they had nothing to worry about. Hit me! She replied excitedly, rubbing her hands together like they were creating an evil plan. Okay, so I've been working with these plants lately, and I think they have the potential to be molecularly modified into smoke bombs. So that can render anyone who breathes it unconscious. I just gotta find a way to convert it from its liquid form to a gas. Izuku explained, his voice hushed. A lot of the stuff he worked on with Hatsume the past few weeks was relatively UA-friendly, but this was a type of gadget that he wanted to keep to himself. Ooh! I get what you mean! Hatsume said enthusiastically, though it matched Izuku's hushed tone. Honestly, if I can get a sample of the plan, I'll have a better idea of if it's possible. Awesome, Izuku replied. He was truly hoping it would work because that would totally be a game changer in missions and would be almost all natural. Also, I was thinking about an upgrade to those knife sheaths. A few weeks later found Izuku himself waiting on one of the UA buses, his black duffel sitting neatly in his lap. Summer had approached incredibly fast, and after exams, training with Shinso and working with Hatsume, Izuku barely had any time that wasn't dedicated to his patrols. He thought back to his conversation with Eraser a few days ago, where the hero had told him about his future absence. Izuku had already known, obviously, but he was still pretty bummed that they wouldn't be able to patrol like usual. He also, of course, knew that due to his close proximity to Eraser, but as Izuku instead, he'd have to be particularly careful with how he acted in order to avoid raising a suspicion.
Midoriya?
A deep voice, startling him from his thoughts, said. Izuku looked up and was met with the man himself, looking at him curiously. He looked more exhausted than usual, though he was sure that that was because he primarily saw the hero at night, which would likely hide his fatigued features.
Glad you could make it. I look forward to seeing more of your analysis on the students.
Thank you, Mr. Aizawa. I can't wait to help everyone in any way I can. Izuku replied happily. It had been a while since he had seen Eraser's more professional side, as he was so used to him being laid back when they patrolled together. Though Izuku can admit he can be serious when he needs to be.
Class 1A should be arriving shortly. Once they're all accounted for, you can do a short introduction if you'd like. Though I'm sure most of them know you already.
Eraser explained as he sorted through a pile of papers he was carrying in his right hand. Izuku blushed at the insinuation that he had made such an impression at the sports festival, though it made sense, considering he tied for third. Right, I don't mind, Izuku responded, nodding briefly. About 15 minutes and a moderately awkward chat with Eraser later, Izuku watched as he saw the class gather outside of the bus. He observed how Eraser attempted to get them to settle, and although they listened pretty quickly, he couldn't miss how excited they all were to be here. They seemed like a pretty well-rounded group of friends, and Izuku couldn't wait to get to know them all. Finally, Izuku heard as Eraser referenced his presence, and he quickly hopped out to greet the class after he was signaled. As he faced the class of hero students, Izuku felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. On one hand, he couldn't wait to analyze all of their quirks on a more personal level, and he never would have expected that people would want to read them. On the other hand, they were all pretty intimidating, especially after being able to see their strength firsthand during the sports festival. Izuku took a deep breath before he said, "Hey everyone, I'm Izuku Midoriya, and I'm here to help you guys with your training. I want to improve my combat too, so I hope we'll be able to help each other get stronger. I look forward to working with everyone." After Izuku's little speech, he found himself immediately surrounded by a group of students, all asking him questions about how he analyzes and the strategies he used in the sports festival. It seemed none of them were still over his skydiving stunt, though that was a pretty difficult moment to top. As he attempted to answer as many questions as he could, he heard Eraser tiredly say over the group of voices,
"Welcome to 1A. This is only the beginning."
It seemed like he had a long few weeks ahead of him, though he couldn't have felt more excited.
And that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. Partially the sass against Stain, but also the seriousness and being able to save everyone and not being injured to the point of hospitalization is so good on Izuku's part. I'm so proud of the little bean. Especially since he served karma to a killer. Oh, it's always such fun to read this story. And
Go and check out the original works from Leahistyping. The link is down in the description, which will bring you to the start of the entire series of part 1, That's Karma. I hope you had your hydration and snack, because otherwise I'll have to sick Rat Overlord on you. Or perhaps we can talk with Patches this time. Whoever knows? We know everyone around here. With that, take care everyone. Love you platonically, and until next time.